Hi there. Today we're with Sharon Mindock at Mindock Counseling here in Peoria, Illinois. And today we're going to talk about relationships and its effect on your health.
Happy to be with you, Jen. As a therapist for over 30 years, I've had many opportunities to work with couples, families, and children. And I have to tell you that relationships are one of the things people are most anxious about. And I think it dramatically affects your mental health. So having strong, healthy relationships is very important.
As an integrative health coach, that's one of the areas that I go into on the primary foods because I do view that to be healthy, you have to have the healthy relationships. And I think a lot of times it starts with the individual. You got to have a healthy outlook on yourself
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go into a positive mindset of relationships and discerning which ones are probably more toxic than others that can bring you down. Because I think if you allow yourself in the relationships that are negative, it affects how you eat, how you feel, how you sleep,
Certainly.
and it has a downplay on our overall health.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think in today's world where we're so fascinated, addicted to technology, relationships really suffer. Many of the people that I work with, a couple be in the same room and they're not talking, they're using their phones or their tablets or whatever, either to talk to each other or just to spend time not talking to each other. So I do agree that if your relationships aren't strong, you feel under stress, and stress then leads to poor eating habits and cortisol. Cortisol is a very inflammatory chemical that impacts our bodies, and a lot of times 80% to 90% of our illnesses have a stress related emotional component. And so today, when you ask people how many people are stressed, I mean, there's so many. I just did a training at the National Guard a couple weeks ago, and there were 52 young people in there, and they just all told me how much stress they are under. And a couple of them did say in their relationships because they don't know how to communicate very well.
And I think that's what, like you said, social media steps in. Because there's a disconnect of how you truly feel and what you can type. Because when you're typing, you can kind of hide the true feelings. Or you have the ones that just verbally expressed in typing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's how you perceive it in reading it. And so a lot of times if, you're in a relationship and you need to talk about something, the last thing you should probably do is put it in a text message because the person you're sending it to is going to probably more likely read it wrong.
Yes.
Wrong tone. And that kind of sets feedback.
Yeah.
In a more positive or maybe a negative way. So
yeah, I mean, I've even had couples working like, oh, they'll break off their engagement with a text, or just interesting dynamics. What is being faithful? Like if you text another person, is that hindering the relationship? In today's world, a lot of people think that it does. So interesting things then happen to our bodies because of stress.
Mm-hmm.
We can't sleep at night. As you said, often we choose poor foods to eat. We may start drinking more caffeine. We may decide that we're going to use energy drinks to stay awake because we're not sleeping well at night. So relationships dramatically impact all aspects of life.
they do, even depending on your age. I mean, the younger ones don't understand. It's like my kids, 14 and almost 14 and 16, they don't have the concept of what we did growing up where you didn't have social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell my oldest, because he's a vlogger, I'm like, you can't get wrapped up in the likes. You can't get wrapped up in the comments on there because that doesn't define who you are. So if you're constantly posting for that feel good,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to set you up later as boom, it's not going to be there because the real world is not like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of the younger kids with social media get in trouble, is because the the outlook on it is not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the older ones are, people in my age group fall more for social media and they don't want to look at things in the real world. And I don't think that that's a good viewpoint and good outlook on your health either.
Yeah, it kind of gets a skewed perspective, I think,
It
of
does.
things. And I think when you think about what people, even though people are scattered across the world and the world is a small place anymore, people still need to have each other. They
Mhm.
still need to have human contact. They still need to have affirmation, encouragement, love, kindness, and you don't get that on a text message.
Mm-mm. I think having a strong, healthy community of people that are like-minded or more supportive and encouraging, and people that want to pray with you or that you can be real with and talk with openly, um, is overall better for your health, especially for the older people, because I feel like they need that community of family and values, and have the younger ones with them. You hear about the blue zones where
Mm-hmm.
they live with the family and they're taking care of them, and they're with the younger kids because of that love, and that connection is really good for their mental state.
There's only one blue zone in the United States. The rest are in other parts of the world.
I know.
Um,
Just kind of sad. We should start our own community.
There you go. Let's have a blue zone. But what you're saying, I think, is true, because what happens today, we have all these retirement communities. It's all older people, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you think about the nuclear family, which is really no more, people need kind of interaction with all of age groups. And so, yes, I'm very into when I get to living in a retirement place, hopefully there'll be lots of other kids and families around, because that's important to me.
It really is. And the openness, and, not just a community with like-minded people, but like your church communities were really good. So if you can find a really good church for the support, the pastoral role, and the prayer, and uplifting with dinners and stuff like that, and the older ones take the younger ones in, and you don't really see that much anymore either. So I think it's really important too, if the little kids to be with the older ones, kind of adopt a grandma or grandpa. You see those videos and stuff, and it's just so heartwarming to see that.
Yeah.
So my kids, they have their grandma and grandpa, and they love them, and but yeah.
Yeah, and today with, again, everybody scattered, there's so many people that don't have their biological families close to them. So I think having a perspective about what is healthy, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to have mom, dad, 2 kids, and, the dog and the 2 cars in the garage, but it does mean you have to have some kind of loving, supportive environment. And people, even today, if they don't have that, do not do well. Their mental health is greatly impacted. Today, anxiety has become the #1 health issue in the United States. It surpasses depression. And why are people so anxious? Because of their health. Safety is, with all the shootings and one every day and more. And relationships, there were 5 in this recent article I read. Relationships was in the 5th spot.
Wow.
So people are anxious about these things. People's needs are not being met. And so I think we really do need to take a look at how we're meeting that.
Even like we were talking earlier about family. You may not always see eye to eye, but that's okay. And it's okay to know that you may not fit in or fit out, however
You're more out than in.
Yeah, but it's accepting that and knowing that you're okay, I think. Because, like I said earlier, when you can find that relationship within yourself, you can kind of see past some of that and let it go and know that you're okay.
Yeah, if you have a core belief that you are a person of value and worth, then you probably will have pretty healthy relationships. Whether that comes from colleagues, peers, other professionals, your family, and today your family could be your neighbor, it could be somebody you work with. And so, yeah, the core beliefs are critical to how we interact and think in the world today. And so many kids today think they're not of value, and our culture relies so much on being young. So older people often have a sense that they don't belong anymore.
Which is really sad.
Very
because
sad.
They do.
Yes, as I approach that pretty quickly.
I love you. I'll be there for you.
Okay. That
I'll
was
adopt
my
you.
plan, having no children, you see, that I would have friends that would be at least 20 years younger than me. And I do, and it feels really good, because even if you have children, you don't know if they'll really be there to take care of you. But when you talk about your health, if you take care of your physical, your mental, your social, and your spiritual health, I believe I'm going to be a very healthy older person. That's my belief.
I believe that.
So I think people can achieve that by taking care of their mental health, and there's still a great stigma about not seeking help if you're having a struggle with a relationship issue or anxiety or depression.
And like there's loneliness. You know, people need to get more involved in that community because it gets you out of that rut of feeling lonely. And if you don't have family, then, you know, find some activity to do with a group or bingo. I know that's a big one in churches. So, but yeah, I mean, loneliness plays a lot too on how you feel. And that also
Definitely.
goes into relationships because if you're lonely, you don't have one. So it's seeking the proper ones to be involved with.
Yes, and then often too, people can be very lonely because they're in unhealthy relationships. They're not happy in the relationships. And I've seen many people, like empty nesters, they begin to really struggle because all their focus has been on raising their children. Okay, now you're with this individual who's maybe you don't know really very well anymore, but you've lived together for 20 some years. So I see a lot of couples struggling with that. I see a lot of individuals struggling with retirement and what they're going to do with that. And to me, that's an opportunity to strengthen your relationships because you have more time. So you might volunteer, you might be in an art class, you could be in a cooking class. And I've had a lot of my clients, it's like, I don't know what I want to do. And so I just say it's an adventure, go out and explore, find healthy activities and enjoy. You know, if you have the health, enjoy the free time.
Travel, go dancing.
Yep. Take a writing class, cooking class, an art class.
I like the cooking, especially if you can incorporate the healthy meals and the tools and, you know,
Yes.
the ingredients. And
Yes. And there, you know, in all cultures, we all have different foods that, with Thanksgiving coming up, it's interesting to see what people have to eat for their meal. And I've, you know, associated with people from a lot of different cultures. And so they're like, well, we don't really always have turkey and everything. So, you know, some of my friends, they'll have Indian food. Obviously, Hispanics, they'll have, the Hispanic fare. So that's just a time, you know, to strengthen relationships. And a lot of times that's a difficult time for people because relationships are not healthy. And then that, again, starts, you know, the stress and getting through holidays are very hard for a lot of people.
I know I'm working with my clients now to be more mindful ahead of time. How are you going to handle the holidays? You know, like if there's a separation in the family and you're going to be seeing somebody, you know, like your ex-husband or ex-wife, or just down to the food choices, because that affects a lot too. And, you know, if you feel like the outcast of the family, you know, it's like, let's prepare mentally now going into that. So when you are there, when seeing them, it's not, you know, stressful.
Yeah, I think having a plan often is a good idea. No, plans don't always come
No,
to
they don't.
fruition. But I think it is a good idea because if you're anxious about it, having a plan kind of gives people more peace. And sometimes, you know, your life stages change. And so, like for myself, both of my parents are deceased, and a lot of my family is now living in all parts of the country. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, what's going to be our new traditions for holidays, because, you know, it could be just me and my husband at this point. My one sister lives fairly close, the other one's in Florida. So it's, how do you connect with people when they're far away and maintain the healthiness of a relationship?
It's hard.
You have to work at all relationships.
You do.
Yes.
It's not just one-sided.
No. It's amazing when people can have, like, they'll say, oh, I've had this friend since I've been in the first grade, which I think is wonderful and phenomenal.
I have those myself.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's wonderful because I don't think many people really have that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to say you've been able to connect and have that bond is wonderful.
Well, it's just amazing, you know, you've known them that long, but even a long period of time can go by and you don't see them. But when you do see them, it's like, oh, it's like we never even lost touch, and you just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, yeah. That's a strong relationship, right? You can see somebody every day and not have much in common. So
that makes it more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a challenge, I think, especially at this time of the year. So I appreciate the talking about the healthy foods and how that, impacts relationships. Because you cannot separate the mind and the body.
You cannot.
They go together. And we have tried for many years in our culture to keep them separate. But today I see it changing, and people becoming more aware and trying to treat the whole person.
Takes time, but when you develop the good habits, it's long lasting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's okay to have a piece of candy once in a while.
it is. And you don't have to feel guilty about it.
No,
That's
I
what
have my
teach
weekly
clients.
donut on Sunday. I have my weekly donut.
Weekly
It's a
donut.
very big treat for me. That's my treat. Yes.
I always tell my clients, I'll never tell you can't have something, but we're going to question why you're eating it and how often do you have it and how much are you having when
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
whole bag of candy. No.
no, just one little M&M, walk away. It's like, you just want that little taste.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's hard to eat just one M&M.
No, and there's no reason to have guilt either, unless you're really overindulging. But it's picking yourself back up and getting back on the track again.
Yes.
But like the high sugar foods, it impacts the mood.
Very
You get the
much
sugar
so.
rush and a crash. Same with caffeine. You're gonna feel down.
Yeah.
And what else can you do to fill that? And it's either taking back more sugars and caffeine, or it's walking away from that and filling it with something positive.
I mean, a lot of my clients don't realize that serotonin is actually manufactured in your gut. And having a healthy gut is critically important for your mental health.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have a healthy gut, then you're not producing serotonin. You're not producing some of the chemicals that would stabilize your mood. And a lot of people just don't understand how important it is to have that healthy gut.
And that's one area that I look at too.
Yep,
So
I
I'm
know
glad
you
brought
do
that
that.
up.
Yes, I just said that to one of my clients, and he just couldn't believe I would be saying it. But he is trying to do a more holistic approach to
Good.
some of his treatment. And it really is helping him, and I see him like it's really helping him a lot. So there are alternatives to many things, and it takes some research, but you can find things, I think, that work.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Well, Sharon, I appreciate your time.
You're
Do you
very
have any
welcome.
last tidbits to give them, or tell
No, I just think that, think about when you take care of your physical body, your mental health is just as important. So what do you do every day to contribute to that healthiness? So that might be just, it could be exercise, because we know that impacts your mental health. It could be just doing something that you enjoy for fun. It could be spending time with those you enjoy. So do something every day that will help enhance your mental health and your relationships.
Thank you.
You're welcome.